Saturday morning, I have a centerfire rifle case open on the bench, 2 empty ammo boxes beside it, and my phone calculator showing me exactly how enthusiastic I got the last time I came out here. That is how a man who swore he did not need another rifle starts looking at a .22. Not because he needs one more gun, because he wants cheaper Saturdays. And this is where the Ruger 1022 and the Marlin Model 60 get dragged into the wrong contest. Somebody shoots both at paper, circles the smaller group, and tells you the winner. I think that is the fastest way to miss what makes these rifles different. One has the stronger old-school factory accuracy reputation. The other is the stronger living platform. Those are not the same victory. And if this is going to be your only .22, that distinction matters more than one pretty target. If you like buyer-first gun reviews without fake winners, subscribe. By the end, I am going to give you 2 answers. Which rifle deserves more respect on the target, and which one I would actually tell a modern buyer to own. The first mistake is treating one rimfire target like a permanent resume. .22 long rifle ammunition can be remarkably sensitive to the individual rifle. Serious rimfire shooters do not just argue about brands. At the higher end of the sport, people test different production lots because one rifle can clearly prefer one lot over another. Lapua operates rimfire testing specifically around matching ammunition types and individual production lots to a particular firearm. That should tell you something before we ever say Marlin or Ruger. If I put one box of ammunition on the bench, shoot one 10-round group from each rifle, and the Marlin prints smaller, I have learned something useful about those 2 rifles with that ammunition on that day. I have not proved that every Model 60 is more accurate than every 1022. Change the ammunition and the gap may shrink, disappear, or reverse. Change the individual rifle and you have another variable. Add a different shooter, wind, fatigue, a hot barrel, or a loose rest, and now our neat little internet championship starts looking less scientific by the minute. That does not mean accuracy comparisons are useless. It means they have to stay in their lane. A casual head-to-head can show what happened. It cannot create a universal law. I learned a long time ago that .22 rifles have opinions. You can spend an afternoon thinking a rifle is mediocre. Change ammunition, and suddenly the same gun starts making you look more talented than you are. I appreciate machinery that does that for me. So when somebody tells you one of these rifles wins accuracy, the next question should be simple. With what ammunition, how many groups, and how many rifles? If the answer is one gun, one box, one afternoon, enjoy the target. Just do not build your whole buying decision on it. Now that we have stopped asking one target to do too much work, we can give the Marlin its credit properly. The Model 60 built an enormous reputation over decades. Marlin says more than 11 million were sold, which explains why so many Americans do not talk about the rifle like a collectible. They talk about it like the old .22 that has simply always been there. That matters. A rifle does not live that kind of life in closets, trucks, barns, camps, and family gun cabinets because everybody hated shooting it. The Model 60 also carries Marlin's microgroove rifling as part of its identity. Owners have spent generations connecting that barrel design with the rifle's accuracy reputation. Here is where I want to keep the claim honest. Microgroove is part of the explanation people give for why the Model 60 shoots the way it does. It is not a magic certificate proving that every Marlin will beat every Ruger. What I am comfortable saying is stronger in the right way. A good factory Model 60 has a long-earned reputation for surprising people on paper. I have a soft spot for rifles like that. No dramatic chassis. No shopping list taped to the stock. No sense that the gun is unfinished until you spend another weekend and another paycheck on it. You load it. You shoot it. If your particular rifle likes the ammunition, the little thing can make you grin. That is the Marlin argument. It is a finished rifle, and the tube magazine fits that personality. There is no detachable magazine to leave on the loading bench, no spare to discover in the wrong range bag, and no separate little object that somehow develops legs between Friday night and Saturday morning. Detachable magazines possess a migratory instinct. I am convinced of it. The tube is slower to replenish than swapping a preloaded magazine. That is real. But the rifle is always complete as a rifle. For the owner who values simplicity more than speed, that is not a defect. It is the point. The mistake people make with the Ruger is trying to force it to beat the Marlin at the Marlin's favorite argument. That is unnecessary. The 1022 does not need to win the nostalgia contest or every factory group contest. Its real advantage is that it is still a living platform. Ruger still produces the 1022, and the basic design remains centered on the detachable rotary magazine that helped make the rifle so distinctive in the first place. Ruger continues to catalog the platform in 2026. That detachable magazine changes ownership more than it changes ballistics. At a busy range session, especially when more than one person is shooting, being able to move between loaded magazines is convenient. If you are introducing a younger shooter, sharing the bench with a friend, or just trying to spend your limited Saturday actually shooting instead of constantly tending the rifle, convenience starts to matter. Then there is the ecosystem. The 1022 has one of the broadest aftermarket worlds in the rimfire market. Stocks, triggers, barrels, sights, optics solutions, magazines, and other components exist in numbers the Model 60 never approached. I am not telling you to replace any of them. That is actually part of the beauty. You can leave a 1022 alone. But if your needs change later, the rifle gives you options. That is the word I care about here. Options. When you are 25, maybe all you want is a cheap plinker with iron sights. Years later, maybe your eyes stop pretending they are 25. Maybe you want an optic. Maybe the rifle starts getting shared with somebody smaller than you. Maybe you decide you care more about the trigger than you did when you bought it. The Ruger lets the same basic rifle follow those changes. The Marlin is much more likely to ask a different question. Do you still like me the way I am? That is not automatically a weakness. But it becomes a very important distinction if this rifle has to be your only 22. This is the midpoint where I stop comparing rifles and start comparing owners. If you already have other rimfires in the safe, the Marlins gets more attractive to me. You are not asking it to cover every possible future job. You can enjoy it for what it is, an old-school semi-automatic 22 with a tube magazine, a strong accuracy reputation, a huge history, and a personality that feels complete. I understand that purchase emotionally. Useful old equipment has a way of earning affection that new equipment sometimes has to audition for. But change one sentence. This will be my only 22. Now Eileen Ruger. Your only 22 has to survive you changing your mind. It has to survive a new shooter joining the family. It has to survive the day you decide your eyes would like some help. It has to survive the day a magazine gets damaged, a part wears, or you simply want the rifle configured differently. That is where current production, broad support, and a deep parts ecosystem stop sounding like marketing features and start sounding like ownership insurance. Not literal insurance, just fewer dead ends. I have bought enough gear in my life to know that the most expensive sentence in a hobby is, I am never going to need anything else. That sentence has cost men boats, optics, tools, trucks, and probably marriages. A 22 rifle is allowed to be more forgiving. The 1022 is. And that is why I can like the Marlin more as an object while still recommending the Ruger more often as the only rifle decision. That is not fence sitting. That is using the buyer's actual problem as the standard. There is another reason the only rifle test matters today. The Model 60 is not in current production. Marlin's current product information says exactly that. That changes the transaction. You are mostly looking at the secondary market, old inventory, inherited rifles, and individual examples with individual histories. An old Marlin is not a condition grade. Some Model 60s spent decades being wiped down, stored properly, and treated like somebody wanted their grandchildren to have them. Others spent decades leaning behind whatever object was closest to the back door. Age does not tell me which one is in front of me. Condition does. That means the Marlin buyer has to accept more uncertainty than the buyer of a current production Ruger. The support picture is different too. Marlin's current support information says Ruger does not have the parts, equipment, or expertise required to factory service pre-Ruger Marlin firearms and directs those owners toward independent repair options. That is not a reason to fear every Model 60. More than 11 million rifles do not vanish because the factory stops making them. It is a reason to price the ownership honestly. A used rifle can be a tremendous value. It can also arrive with somebody else's neglect hiding under the nostalgia. I like honest wear. A scar in the stock does not bother me. Mechanical neglect does. Do not pay a nostalgia tax for neglect. And the corporate history makes this situation even stranger. Ruger acquired substantially all of the Marlin firearms assets in 2020. The deal closed on November 23rd for approximately $28.3 million. Ruger later returned Marlin-branded rifles to production, beginning with lever-action models. The Model 60 did not come back with them. I am not going to invent a boardroom motive for that. Maybe somebody wants the story to be that Ruger buried a rival to protect the 1022. It is a satisfying story. Satisfying is not the same thing as proven. The buyer only needs the part we can verify. The 1022 remains a current Ruger platform, and the Model 60 remains a discontinued Marlin design. That difference follows you home long after the target gets thrown away. Now let me make the best argument for the Marlin, because the Ruger's greatest strength can turn into its most expensive bad habit. A platform invites projects. A project invites parts. Parts invite the sentence, well, while I am already doing this. That sentence has emptied more hobby budgets than inflation. You start with a 22 because you are tired of burning expensive centerfire ammunition. Then you decide the stock could be better. Then the optic. Then the trigger. Then you are staring at a rimfire rifle that costs several times what you intended to spend, explaining to yourself how much money you are saving. That is beautiful American accounting. The Model 60 has a defense against that. It mostly asks you to stop shopping and start shooting. For some owners, that is not merely charming. It is financially healthy. And if your clean Model 60 happens to shoot exceptionally well with ammunition it likes, the Ruger's giant aftermarket becomes theoretical. You do not need 50 choices when the rifle in your hands already does exactly what you bought it to do. That is the strongest counter-argument to my Ruger recommendation. Why buy flexibility you may never use? Why care that a rifle can become 10 different things if you only wanted one simple thing? Fair. If you know yourself, if you already own other rimfires, and if you find a sound Model 60 you genuinely like, I have no desire to talk you out of it. In fact, I understand that buyer better than I probably should. But if you do not know what you will want 5 years from now, flexibility has value. The Marlin rewards certainty. The Ruger forgives indecision. Most of us are less certain than we think. So which one shoots better? The honest answer is not as clean as the thumbnail wants. The Model 60 has the stronger old-school factory accuracy reputation, and a good example deserves every bit of respect you give it. But I will not claim that every Model 60 will outshoot every 1022. Rimfire ammunition matters too much. Individual rifles matter too much. A one-afternoon group comparison is evidence about those samples, not a lifetime verdict on both designs. Now the second question, which one should you own? If this is your only 22, I would take the Ruger 1022. Current production, detachable magazines, broad support, and the ability to adapt the rifle later make it the stronger long-term ownership platform. If you already own other rimfires and what you want is a simple old-school rifle with no urge to become a project, a clean Model 60 is the one I would find more interesting. That distinction is the whole story. The Marlin is a finished sentence. The Ruger is a sentence you can keep editing. Saturday morning, the centerfire case is still open on my bench. The empty ammo boxes are still there. The calculator has not gotten any kinder. That was the original problem. Cheaper Saturdays. And if I am buying 122 to solve that problem for the next 10 years, I am taking the Ruger. If I already solved the practical problem and I am choosing with a little room left for affection, I am taking a hard look at the Marlin. Those are different decisions. They should be. If you could keep only one, would you take current production flexibility or old school simplicity? And why?